Though I'm ensconced in a bohemian neighborhood in Connecticut, I like that word that we just heard, bohemian. Thank you, Brendan. This is Bohemia right here. But I'm actually a Bay Area boy. I was
I like
born
that
and
word.
raised
Bohemia.
in
Thank you,
San
Brendan.
Francisco. Are you getting feedback from me?
This is Bohemia right here.
But I am actually a Bay. Are you getting feedback from me? Are we okay? I'll just keep going. So I, again, grew up in San Francisco. I was actually in the womb at a 49er game when they played at Kezar Stadium back in the day. I was there when Joe Montana threw the catch to Dwight Clark. That's the San Mateo Bridge. I played in the Burrell in San Mateo, the Burrell Junior High School band when the high span there was opened. And our guitarist that day was none other than Neil Schon, the lead guitarist from Journey. So I grew up in San Mateo. My dad, picture there, was an electrical engineer. He went to UC Berkeley. He was always in the basement inventing things. So in a way, he was a lot like a product manager. In fact, he was a product manager, among other things, at a small company in San Francisco that made pole line hardware, the equipment that goes up on top of the telephone poles. So when we went on vacation to many of the sites you know and love, Yosemite, Carmel, wine country, my dad would pull the car over and take pictures of telephone poles. So that was my upbringing. So I was raised by somebody just like you. I ventured off into the creative arts for a while. I was a disc jockey for a bit up in Oregon. I did some theater in San Francisco, tried some stand-up comedy in San Francisco. My mom said, you know, we need you to get out of the house and get a real job. So why don't you go into sales, she said. And so I moved to Oakland and worked at Berkeley for Adam Osborne in the early 1980s. Went to the West Coast Computer Fair in 1981 when he launched the Osborne computer. Maybe you don't even know this. It's so long ago, but it was the first portable computer coming in at 22 pounds. I did not work at his computer company. He was starting that in parallel. I worked for him in Berkeley at his publishing company that he sold to McGraw-Hill, used the $3 million proceeds to start his computer company. So this was my foray into sales. I actually loved it, and I loved hanging out with technology people, especially ones that were helping simplify complex information. So we had books back in the day, the Apple II User's Guides, CP/M, the 6502 Assembly Language Programming, and some others. And so let's branch now into product training. This is where the connection begins. So my first foray into product training was as a salesperson. The authors of the book would come into the office. We'd have a one-day meeting, and they would each speak for 30 minutes, and they would go into lots and lots of detail about their books, chapter by chapter, all the cool things. As salespeople, we were overwhelmed and realized we didn't need that much information. We need a couple of sentences. Back then, we were pitching books over the phone and then in person to book buyers at, there was Stacy's in Palo Alto. Maybe some of you remember that bookstore, but bookstores and a lot of computer stores all over the country, Computerland and others. So that was data point one, lots of information from the authors / product managers. I then moved to Connecticut, again, technology information, started out in sales at Gartner, and instead of a one-day product training, it was 3 days. And there were 9 very smart people just like you lecturing us one by one, an hour each. Holy smokes, this is how we felt as salespeople. Something's burning, and I think it's my brain. It was too much information. So this was my observation, kind of going into sales reluctantly. So almost like an anthropologist studying sales and product managers. This was my observation. Information overload. It was 100% lecture. It was just them speaking to us, no interaction at all. It was often prepared at the last minute, especially Gartner. It was slanted toward the wrong audience. So they would bring in a PowerPoint they had created for a client, and it was a one and done. There was no pre-training, there was no post follow-up, there was no coaching. So this is what I observed. And let's go to polling question number 1, Tom. While he's pulling that up, I'm going to ask you, I know none of you would ever have trained like that, but just in case, let's go to question 1, which is, which of the following product training mistakes have you made or observed during your career? So those are the mistakes I observed as a salesperson. Information overload, pure lecture, prepared at the last minute, slanted toward the wrong audience. So maybe you brought in something that was designed for clients instead of salespeople. One and done. So just a one-time training session, no follow-up, or you've never made these mistakes. All right. Submit your answers there.
And just to confirm, you can only choose the one that you've run into the most. Many of you probably run into more than one of these.
Right. Yep. The one most common. Thank you, Tom. Very good point.
All right. With that, we're just coming up on the top of 1 minute. We've got 89% of the people voted. Hopefully the rest of you vote in the next one, and we'll click on the results here.
Okay, let's see what we got.
The results.
Information overload is the winner. One and done, great. And pure lecture are the top 3. Great, thank you. Looks like great, there we go. Thank you for participating. So I kind of complained about the way we were doing training at Gartner, and I had done some training some sales training in San Francisco at night when I was working for Osborne. And they said, okay, smart guy, why don't you fix the problem? Why don't you start Gartner Sales University? So I studied, I brought in some of my creative background. We spent some time down at Xerox back in the 70s and 80s. They were like the premier sales organization. We had a lot of Xerox salespeople at Gartner. So really studied what they did to create such a strong sales force. So with that, I'm now going to present how to solve all of this. First, we'll take a quick look at the problem a little more in depth with some data behind it. We'll then look at salespeople, who they are, how to connect with them, what information they need. And then finally, what's the secret sauce? How do you move beyond training and really make that tight connection so those salespeople are out actively promoting your products, services, whatever they may be. And this is, again, based on my experience at Gartner, the work I've done with my own clients, and then just finished recently a study to get some data behind this with the University of Northern Colorado, the Social Research Lab. It was around this issue, which was how to launch, the focus was how to launch products through B2B sales teams, but it's really about the topic tonight, how to engage the sales force and get them to love and promote your products. So let's begin with the problem, which you're probably aware of, but here's some data that I gathered. We asked in the survey, what % of new products are successful? More than half the people, almost 60%, said they're successful less than half the time. So 1 out of 2 products fail. And I know there's some other data out there. I think Gartner has some that basically says the same thing. So that's, I think, a big problem. We asked our panel, what prevents new products from being successful? The #1 response was no customer need by quite a large margin. So have you experienced this? I mean, to me as an outsider, it's like, no customer need. How did we invest all that time, money, research, development time to launch a product and, oh, there's no customer need? Let's look behind that. This is based on the survey and interviews and my own observations. And forgive me if this sounds a little blunt, but here's the problem in a nutshell. What we have observed is product managers working in isolation. Like my dad working in the basement, he was developing things. He loved his gadgetry, these things that would go up on telephone poles, and he really was in love with them. There was a customer need for those. But we have seen where product managers are working in the back room, they fall in love with something and don't go test it in the marketplace before investing all the time to develop it. So they didn't consider the voice of the customer, didn't involve the voice of sales, who are on the front lines talking to customers every day. Did not measure true product potential. So is there really a market for this? How big is it? Well, if it's small, perhaps there are some other products or services that we'd be better off investing our time in. And shiny object syndrome, where, hey, let's do this. Oh, wait a minute, let's go over here. To this day, just 6 months ago, one of my clients, I can't believe it, had this problem. They would, we're going to launch this. No, we're going to launch that. And I'd be developing training for them and they'd be zigzagging. So these are some problems. All right. We also asked, how often have you experienced, this is for salespeople, the following in product training? Again, we're looking at the problems. This data backs up my own observation. So 56% said the trainers dazzled the salespeople with the new features, but didn't teach how to sell. So it was more of a show and tell versus teach how to sell. The trainer overwhelmed salespeople with too much information. Again, the problem. So as I mentioned, what I've observed as one of the #1 problems is when it comes to training salespeople, product managers tend to do a show and tell. Product detail, product detail, product detail. There's a difference between that and teaching how to sell. And we'll talk about how to do that. You'll notice there is still the blue over on the right. So we still need some product overview, some product details, but we need other information, more important information than that. And we'll dig deeper into that a little bit later. So this is the mantra. If there's one message tonight, don't show and tell, teach how to sell. Other problems we saw in training, no reinforcement or coaching. So training needs to be more than a one-off and done. The salespeople weren't tested for learning. Training developed at the last minute. Again, I'm repeating myself a little bit here. Let's talk about how product managers come in with training information that is slanted toward the wrong audience. Let's unpack that and see what the root cause is. Here's what happens. So we've got the new product or service, and you've been actively involved in developing content for all different kinds of audiences. You need something for the executives, a business plan. Somebody in our networking discussion said, "Oh, I love creating messaging for different people, the prospects." So that's marketing. You're working with marketing to create marketing slanted messages about your new product. The customers, once they buy, are going to need maybe a user guide. The suppliers will need to know what are the specifications of the components that are going to go into the product if it's a hard object. And so all this work has gone in, and now we say, hey, whoa, we need sales training. Oh, whoo, yeah, okay. Well, gosh, there's got to be something we've already done we can use. Well, we've got some marketing content. Okay. We've got the user guide for the customers. Yeah, why don't we just kind of use some of this and we'll give it to the salespeople. So what I see happening is most often the product managers take a user guide type content and give it to sales, all that product detail, and hope they can kind of turn it into a sales conversation. Again, they need some of that, but they need a lot more. Let's also look at what the difference is between the written word and the spoken word. Somebody mentioned the Stephen King book right up on the shelf behind me over there. A great book, highly recommended as well, because writing is key. It's shaping, honing your message, and getting that specific message for sales is an art form and really important, but I'm going to show you how to do it tonight. So let's look at the difference between the written word and the spoken word. So the written word, which is more like you'd see in a marketing brochure or marketing something online, longer sentences, they're more complex, a lot of commas, tend to use big words, It's more flowery, flowing language. Nothing wrong with it. It's written to be read in silence in your own head. The spoken word, on the other hand, shorter sentences, simple declarative sentences, meaning see, spot, run, this product is good. There are no commas. We tend to use real words, and it sounds like real talking. So it's really the difference between a novel over on the left and a screenplay over on the right. Look at the difference. The written word, just without even if you couldn't read, you go, oh, there's a lot more black on the left than there is on the right. I've heard it said that in Hollywood, if a producer opens a screenplay and sees lots of black, they toss it aside. So what we've got to give to sales is the words they'll actually use on sales calls, the spoken word. That's where we want to get. Hope that makes sense. Another problem is the sales force is only involved when it comes time to receive the sales training. They're not involved during the product development phase. They don't help with training development, and there's no reinforcement afterwards. The interviews I did, the companies that are doing this right, the instant the idea of a product comes to mind, they bring a team of people in representing many aspects of the business, not just the product team. And the group that's got a seat at that table is sales. Is this going to fly? And then involving the salespeople with the training so that it validates, it helps bring in the voice of sales so that the content you create is going to resonate with the salespeople. And then bringing in some reinforcement after that training. And then some final things in the survey. I know I mentioned at the beginning, there was no customer need in terms of what prevents new products from being successful. The other things we heard were business leaders have unrealistic expectations about the length of the sales cycle. Business leaders are excited. They've got numbers to make, especially today with COVID going on. And they're hoping that this new product is like the savior. It's going to fix all problems. Well, as we know, the new product sometimes, not always, has a longer sales cycle. Maybe have some bumps in the road, so it takes a while for that to for the sales to happen. Poor marketing, lead gen, sales tools. The product was announced before it was ready for market. In fact, back to the Osborne example, if you know your history, Adam Osborne launched the Osborne 1. It was a huge success, and he was kind of a talker. And he said, before the Osborne 2 is ready, just wait till you see the Osborne 2. It's going to be even better than the Osborne 1. And poof, the company folded because nobody was buying the Osborne 1. And poor sales training. All right, what's the cost? Pretty obvious here. There's a lost trust between product marketing and sales. We lose the time. Sometimes the products are canceled. We lose revenue. And one key here is the loss of competitive advantage. The new products, if we're first to market, you've got a window of time to get the sales force out selling this. And if the product launch is bobbled, we got to come back. Well, the competitors are now developing a similar product. And so you've lost that window of competitive advantage. So those are the problems. Any questions on that? I'm going to stop after each of the 3 sections. Tom, anything coming in? How are we doing? Are we on target? Too obvious? Helpful? Keep going?
Once I find the mute key, we had a lot of good feedback in the chat window. A few comments back about some organizations not really letting their PMs out of the engineering lab. They think they're supposed to just manage the engineers and ship the product on time and not letting them actually out. And that's a challenge in some organizations. It's short-sighted, in my opinion, having been on both sides of that. A little bit of a comment on, building things that people actually want. There was one question that came in. How do you split training between product management and product marketing managers and sales management? Like, how do you split that up?
Wow, that's a great question. It really depends on the organization. The key is one of the keys is to have the voice of sales. Get sales involved. Not everybody, but one or a couple people involved in the training development. And there's also often a learning and development, a training function within the organizations that help design the training. So I think it depends on the organization who the subject matter expert is. It's really important, whoever is doing that, to understand principles of training. So either read up on that, get a train the trainer course in your organization, or if you've got a learning and development team, they've got great ideas on how to structure the training so that it's learner friendly, interactive, facilitated, not just lecture. And then make sure the voice of sales is represented so that it rings true. Sales are very skeptical people, and they know when something does not smell right. So if it feels too ivory tower, or if it's overly structured with training design, it doesn't resonate with them. As an example, when I was at Gartner, I was in a room with the senior sales leadership team. I was there as a head of sales training, and somebody came in this case from HR, human resources, to talk about training design, and she was using all kinds of training speak, like how many participants instead of, well, how many salespeople? What is the Kirkpatrick level of learning you're trying to achieve? Anyway, it was learning speak, which is all valid, but it just didn't sound right to the sales folks. So when she left the office and closed the door, we all like rolled our eyes. So again, you want it to make sure whoever's designing it that it resonates with sales, and so that the dogs eat the dog food.
We've got a bunch of additional questions just popped in. Any tips on kind of getting sales engaged early in development if they're not currently plugged in? You don't have a product to sell yet, so you're kind of in discovery mode. And any tips on kind of getting that plugged in? Because typically speaking, kind of engineering centric organizations don't hang out with the sales and the marketing side of the house. And like, any good tips on getting that plugged in so you can start that cycle?
Yeah, one of the recommendations toward the end here is you do need to hang out with sales and break down the walls and hang out. I mean, didn't Steve Jobs design that Apple? Actually, it was Pixar. The Pixar building was designed so that people would meet in the middle and have accidental meetings, and that's where some of the best things happen. So, at a minimum, though, I would change the process so that somebody from sales has a seat at that engineering table. I was talking to Pepsi, and they spent a lot of time and money researching products, and they had some bombs. And this very senior product management person there said, that's when we shifted, and we insisted on having sales in the room, a senior salesperson or two in the room the minute the idea of something comes to mind. And sales being out on the front lines, we've got to interview them. What are you hearing out there? What's the competition doing? What are the people's needs? The salespeople they're very street smart, and they want to make their quota. And if they see an opportunity that's going to be easier to make their number, we want to hear from them what those ideas are. They're not always on target, but certainly a good percentage of them are.
Good data point, yeah. The other question, and there was a little bit of a discussion around it, differentiating sales enablement from sales training, because a lot of organizations kind of say, well, aren't those the same thing? Or they're not really separating those out.
In my mind, it's really the same thing. Sales enablement is a little more all-encompassing. The sales training function might be a piece of that. Sales operations might be a piece of that also. the new term is sales enablement. So that's kind of the term du jour. It seems like it's going to stay though. So really sales training moved into sales enablement, and some other things are under there, like
Is
sales operations.
Is there anything around kind of beyond just the training, but the other pieces that need to be part of a kind of more comprehensive engagement than just the training itself? Like what other pieces?
Yes, I've got a whole section on that. Yep, other things to win the salespeople over. If hopefully I'm interpreting that question right. Yes, that's part 3, and I've got some great ideas on that.
Excellent. Well, I think we should probably move
Yep.
on to the next section so we don't.
Yeah, we won't run out of time. And I'm happy to go over, but I want to certainly be respectful of people's time. So let's look at salespeople. Again, I'm coming at this like an anthropologist. This is meant to be light, maybe humorous. Let's look at 7 key differences between product managers and salespeople. Product managers are known for being smart. They've got high IQ. Salespeople have high emotional intelligence. Product managers tend to be logical in their thinking. Salespeople tend to be more emotional in how they deal with people. Product managers might be more apt to listen to classical music like Bach. Salespeople might be more apt to listen to rock and roll like Bachman Turner Overdrive. Product managers are interested in tea time, afternoon tea like the English. Salespeople more interested in tea time like golf. Product managers have PhDs. Salespeople have ADHD, very short attention spans. Product managers deal with facts. Salespeople do, but as my friend from Goodyear said, they are made up facts. Okay, I guess that's somewhat true. Okay, we'll let it go. Product managers tend to be from schools like MIT, and salespeople are not. All right, you're welcome. A little break, little mental break. Let's go to question. You know what? In the interest of time, I'm going to move on. That's all right, because we've got some great meat here, and I'm afraid we're going to run out of time. So I would have asked you this question. Is there resistance to selling new products in your organization? You would have put in some answers. They probably would have come out to about 67%. So in our survey, 67% of the respondents, sales and product managers, said there was resistance to new products, to selling new products, yes, or sometimes. Now, let's get into the mind of salespeople. This is key. Why do salespeople, oh, you answered. Oh, great. Oh, we're doing it in parallel. I love it. That's what you engineers do. Thank you. So look at that, 60, even higher, 80 something percent. Great. All right. Again, getting into the hearts and minds of salespeople. So why do salespeople resist? It takes less effort to sell existing proven products. Salespeople want sure, easy things. Number 2, this is really important. They spend a lot of time developing customer relationships, building trust, sometimes over years. Maybe in high tech, it's not that long with the turnover we see in sales in high tech, but still they built trust. And if something new is coming in and they're not quite sure it's going to work, it could backfire that relationship. There's a lot of pressure to achieve short-term results. Again, we said earlier, the new products sometimes have longer sales cycles, and the salespeople have got to produce results. If they got a sure thing with last year's product, I'm gonna make my number with that and not risk not making quota. This is interesting, and we can use this next bullet to really understand how to approach salespeople. They fear they won't know enough, and they will, to be blunt, they'll sound stupid on sales calls. This is really true. So when we're blasting them with lots of product information, they're going, oh my gosh, I don't know what they're talking about. And they're feeling, I'm not going to be able to have a conversation with prospects because A, I don't understand it, and B, I might sound stupid. So that's a real live fear in the hearts and minds of salespeople, and they're skeptical about the new product. All righty. So I've been in the hallway back when we were meeting and having those global sales events in Las Vegas or Orlando. Uh, salespeople have just heard a new product launch. Hundreds of thousands of dollars went into this in the meeting, multi thousands to fly people in. And at the coffee break, salesperson A says, "Hey, you're going to sell that new product?" And salesperson B says, "No way, I've got quota to make." So we want to get the product training right. So who are salespeople? I think we know they've got to make quota, right? So let's say in this year, they've got to sell $1 million of new business. That's their quota. They are driven by fear. I've done sessions with my clients where I had salespeople stand up and say, "We want you to open up and tell the truth." And a lot of them say, "I am scared. I'm scared. I'm not going to make my number." Jerry Rice, 49er receiver at his induction into the Hall of Fame, said, "I was driven by fear. I was fearful that I would drop the catch and let my team down." They're fearful of not being able to converse on sales calls. Also, salespeople, highly competitive. If you want to motivate salespeople, just publish a stack ranking, put it on the coffee board, put it online. The salespeople will fight like dogs to work their way up the list. We love recognition, applause, awards, little tchotchkes. I've got my Gartner award, my Gartner paperweight right here. Recognition. Love to have fun. And the old saying, we're coin operated. So we'll go where the money is. Again, we've got to hit that quota. From a communication style perspective, this is interesting. Have you been through a DISC training, DISC? It's 4 communication styles. There are other versions of this. They're all about the same. There are 4 different communication styles. Let's take a quick look at this. There's dominance, influence, steadiness, and conscientiousness. And we lost some words there. It's okay. So the dominance folks are like our current president. Bullet points, bottom line, want the job done. The influencers are more fluid and fun. They're people, fun. They're motivated by possibilities. They love applause. The steadiness folks are like Mother Teresa, Mr. Rogers, kind, gentle, soft-spoken people. They care about relationships, people. They're motivated by having harmony. The conscientious folks are like Bill Gates, a lot of engineers there. Perhaps some of you on this call, love facts and details, love to do their homework. They're motivated by accuracy. And herein lies the problem. Again, I'm generalizing, but a lot of salespeople are like Robin Williams, fun, energetic, possibilities. And the product managers are like Bill Gates, facts, details, accuracy. So the 2 communication styles across either diagonal, that's where the headbutting comes. So when you, especially if you're like Bill Gates, when you're communicating with the influencers, the Robin Williams, you've got to stretch, try to act more loose, have some fun, pick up the pace a little bit, be a little less rigid. Again, we could do a whole day on this, but you get the idea, right? So, okay, what do salespeople need? They need content that is simple, clear, and relevant. Content they can use right now. And you've really got to cut and strip away all the other content. So you really want to find those nuggets. So when I was producing the podcast at Gartner, Talking Technology, we would interview our technical experts for an hour and then whittle that content down to like 6 to 10 minutes. And each time we took a paragraph or a sentence or an and out, it got exponentially better. It's like the TV show 60 Minutes. It's really good because they filmed multi-hours of content and whittled it down to about 12 minutes. We've got to remember when we're helping salespeople, we've got to help them build confidence. Remember, they're not going to admit they're afraid. See, but your job is to help them build confidence and avoid embarrassment. We want to help them make quota. So when you're giving a product training, show them how this is going to help them make quota. Praise their success. They love that positive reinforcement. And as I mentioned, they're competitive, and they're wondering, how am I compared to my peers? So publishing that stack ranking will really fire them up. Okay, that's a look inside salespeople. We also asked the flip side. Remember, we asked earlier in the survey, why do salespeople resist? There's actually some good news. Why do they not resist? So again, these are some motivators you can tap into. Number one, by a large margin, it gives salespeople something new to discuss with existing customers. So while on the one hand, they might be afraid to bring something up, one of the people I interviewed was a product manager at, actually head of innovation at Goodyear, and they sell tires. And the tire buyers are like, yeah, just send me an order form. They're still tires. But when they came up with the smart tire, it gave the salespeople something new to go back and see their longtime clients. Gives them an edge over the competition. It opens the doors to new buying centers. So maybe your current product is just for the marketing department. Well, maybe you've got something new that would be relevant to the sales folks. So you're opening the doors to different buying centers. And there's an old saying in sales, land and expand. So land, get some sale going, get a relationship, and then use that relationship to get referred into other departments. And certainly by having a new offering is one way to do it. And they love additional tools to make quota. Okay, let's shift now to the content information. What is the information salespeople need to be successful? Okay, remember, it's not just product details. Okay, that's in here. Number 3 is a clear description of the offer with feature, benefits, and value. So that's the product detail, but focused on not just the features, but the benefits and the value. More importantly than that, the salespeople need to understand the need or the challenge. It's really why. Why did this product get developed in the first place? And you're not just providing this to help the salespeople communicate with the prospects. You're selling the salespeople on listening, on believing. If they see a valid reason and this product's going to offer it, they are now, is going to solve it, they are now going to start paying attention to what you say. And then they're thinking, all right, I know there's a need. Who do I call on? Then actually they're going to need next in their conversation, probing questions. It's those questions that understand the need, uncover the need. There's the old saying, FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Some of those questions are designed to stir up that fear, uncertainty, and doubt in the prospect's mind. Again, with ethics, not manipulative, but to dig that up. And then it's always good to have proof, a success story with ROI. Don't always have that with a brand new offering, but maybe there was a pilot or a beta that you can draw on. Okay, so again, it's not show and tell, it's this. This is the secret. Essentially, I've just taken the things from the prior slide and sequenced them in the order that salespeople will need to know them. Why? Again, when you go into a training room, my assumption is assume that the salespeople are skeptical, bored, and thinking about golf. It's a slight exaggeration, but not that much. So the first thing you got to do is get their attention. Why was this product development? What's the customer need? Who do I call on? What am I going to talk to them about? What need am I uncovering with them? What kind of probing questions will enable me to do that? And then again, those featured products about the offering. Mantra: remember, don't show and tell, teach how to sell. Big difference. Subtle, you can do it now. I know you can. If you don't remember the sequence that I showed on the prior slide, find out what the sales process is from your head of sales enablement or VP of sales, and map the content to that process, because these are the logical steps the salespeople will be taking to make the sale. You want to package it in a way that's user-friendly. Use the language that's being used in your organization. Maybe it's simply a PowerPoint deck. Some of the terms I hear out there are battle cards or sales playbook or conversation guide, cheat sheet, or tip sheet. So here are a couple of examples that I've created. This is a product decision matrix with a financial institution, and the salespeople have to decide which lease or loan offering is the best match. Kind of like when you go online and you self-assess. I've got a cough. Well, is it, you go to WebMD. Do you have a cough? Yes. Does your chest hurt? Yes. Call 911. It's that decision tree. Again, we want to simplify for sales. We as product managers sometimes feel that, gee, we better give them a lot of information so they know what to do, when in fact, that's overwhelming to them. We want to pick out those nuggets and give them just that. The rest can be available for follow-up or a research document, but we don't want to overwhelm them. We want to pick those most important things. As Alfred Hitchcock said, drama is life with the dull bits cut out. So you want to create drama by cutting out the dull parts. The author of The Little Prince said it this way: perfection is achieved not when there is nothing more to add, but when there is nothing left to take away. This is key because as product managers, we like to pack it in, and that can backfire. How do we make training more consumable? And this is not just training, but really any interaction we have with them. Number one, if we are training, make it interactive. So we'll talk about some ways to do that. So don't just lecture. There are many ways to break it up to keep salespeople engaged. Include success stories from other sales reps. Simplify the content, include role plays, break the training into small chunks. Again, this was from the survey. I mentioned earlier, this is what I do. And I think why I've been successful is I assume they're bored, skeptical, they're thinking about other things. So this is the quick train the trainer 101. Don't lecture, include some facilitation. You can do things like table discussions. So let's say you've got to transfer knowledge A. You could just tell them, or you could give them, meaning breaking into groups of 4 or 5, and you can do this virtually during COVID also in breakout groups. So give them 2 or 3 questions about where they would develop their best guess answers to the content you would have delivered via lecture. So that way they're thinking about it, they're fumbling around, they're internalizing it, they're making it their own. Then have them report out, and if they get it right, you can say great job, and then reveal the content you would have revealed. Or if all groups report out and they missed a couple of key points, then you can give those points that you would have made in the pure lecture. Salespeople thrive on that interaction. You could do some mock case studies. Again, give a small group of salespeople a case study, how they would go about approaching this client, what have you. Play some games, Jeopardy, Family Feud. There are even online versions of these. Have team competitions, maybe a sales call skit competition. 3 teams of 2 get up and present. All kinds of things like this. Again, make it fun, interactive. Think about when you were in elementary school, what your favorite teachers did to keep you engaged. You can have panel discussions. We've done this where we've got product managers and salespeople talking about a day in the life and being really honest. Bring in a customer to add to that. If you've got a customer that's dying to buy this new offering, by golly, bring them in, get them on a Zoom call. Let's hear what they have to say. You could give teams brainstorming questions, and they can work at flip charts. Testimonials from salespeople. Again, multiple ways to move away from pure lecture. And the key is to have variety. Okay, delivery methods. And we're distinguishing between breakthrough products and extensions of existing products, the results were about the same. So best delivery method, face-to-face, regional, or district sales meetings. Now, these are still happening virtually and certainly not face-to-face, but they love that district, that team approach. Virtual instructor-led training session came in second, live conference calls, those global sales events, be a while before we see those. I was surprised that e-learning came out so low because it's so popular, but in fact, salespeople do prefer that interacting with their peers, and then electronic documents to read online. I'm going to skip the extension. The results are about the same. How are salespeople motivated? By incentives. Again, we said they are coin operated. They love a cash bonus for achieving a specific revenue target. So if there's a way to work with the compensation people, again, that's probably another person under that umbrella of sales enablement. Can you get a cash bonus assigned to your new product? So that's like a spiff, a little extra that they get paid for selling X revenue. And number three, or maybe it's just they sell a specific number of deals and they get a bonus. They're motivated by recognition. Again, lots of applause. Announcing their names at company meetings. These are the top people that sold the new offering, because that will motivate other people to want to be just like them and get on the list. Here's another way financially to motivate them: an increased quota attainment for new product sales. In case you don't know what that is, let me just explain it quickly. So let's say my quota is $1 million, and I sell $100,000 of your new product. Well, this increased quota attainment means even though I only sold $100,000, it's going to count double. Like that will count as 200,000 toward achieving that $1 million quota. So that is another way to motivate salespeople, and publishing the stack ranking. All right, let's go to polling question number 3. Let's break it up. Polling question number 3. Yes, all right. After the initial product training, what follow-up works best? I'm going to do what we did last time in parallel because I want to be sensitive to time. Our survey came out with, number 1 was hearing success stories from other sales reps. So I really want to emphasize that salespeople, again, we're skeptical. Do we trust the product manager? Is the product good? If we hear it's good, if we hear you're good, you're one of us, from another well-respected, top-producing sales rep, we're going to be on board. Coaching from the manager, Q&A with you all, going on sales calls with product managers, role plays and practice sessions, job aids and cheat sheets. All righty. I'm going to zip ahead in the interest of time. I know the results will come up in session. All right. You got it. Yep. Very similar results. Very similar results. Yes. Q&A almost identical. Thank you. Great. Move that over. All righty. Click. And again, just emphasizing how effective it is to get salespeople to do some of the quote selling for you. So for example, at that initial product training or follow-up, get a salesperson up to share a success story, even if it's at the beginning and the product's just being launched. We didn't do a pilot or a beta. There's probably a rep out there that knows this is going to be a winner. They've talked to the prospect. Maybe the prospect was involved in coming up with the idea for this new offering. So get the salesperson to say, hey, this thing is hot. Here's why. That will get everyone else paying attention. Talk about the client need. Maybe endorse you. Maybe you're, this is your first time in front of the sales force. maybe get the sales ace, again, top producing salesperson to say, hey guys, Bob knows what he's doing. Listen up. If you're doing some training where you're getting the salespeople to do an exercise at a table, for example, have them come up with, okay, now you've learned about the product, come up with at each table 10 probing questions to ask on your first sales call. Have them write them down, get them, and then publish the best ones back out to the sales force. Again, you're creating that screenplay, those talking points versus the novel. Have them share how I made the sales story, post the sales results. All righty, great. And in an ideal world, again, with training, we're going to move to not just training in a second, but have training be more than a one-time experience. Not always easy, but try to get at least more than one. You could do some pre-training before the big training event, then the big training event. You could provide you could teach the sales managers how to coach their people, give them some coaching. You could do the coaching. Show up at the district meeting to answer questions and hear some success stories. Do a certification where you actually test the salespeople, maybe on knowledge or a skill, having them do a role play, either with you or the sales manager. I don't think you need that. Let's go to questions. Any questions? And I do want to save time for that last part, which is how do you move beyond this and really, in other ways, win them over? Tom, any quick questions?
Yeah, let's take a peek here. There was a lot of chatter back and forth. Some of it was questions and some of it was a side conversation on the back end. I've actually got one question I'll throw out there from a recovery standpoint. I've seen cases before. I had a product that was late into a beta, wound up with an issue that affected, a customer, and it happened to be an account of a highly influential salesperson. That product was software patched and dealt with inside of 2 weeks. And then when we went to launch, we never made our P&L number forecast because the salespeople didn't trust it, or they never went back to, they're like, oh, Bob, oh, gee, had that nightmare. And it's like, that was dealt with. It's no longer in the product, but we couldn't get past that no matter what we did.
Yeah, that happens. The key is to get Bob turned around, and or are there other salespeople who will vouch for, hey, this thing is fixed, or get the customer in. Boy, if you could, it's too bad. Usually top producers, if something is fixed, my experience is they don't bash the product. They would speak to, hey, the team came in and fixed it. So the strong sales leaders that I've worked with or for have come in and set up a scenario where they take Bob in and say, hey, we got to fix this thing. Let's get you, the customer, and the product manager on a call where the sales force is listening. Let's talk about how we fix this, because you do have to rebuild the trust. But gosh, in that scenario, it sounds like you took care of the problem for the customer, and the communication didn't get fixed.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Got another good point in here. Given kind of our agile and our lean startup methodologies and all of that, a big part of what PMs are working towards is incrementally shipping. It's not like we've got the big product launch at the end of 2 years of development anymore. How do we kind of keep the sales in the loop when sales wants a complete solution with all the features all built in, and the way that we're operating in a lean agile environment is, well, we've shipped the barest minimum that will maybe satisfy the customer, and then we have more things coming in the future that might be, every month there's another piece of this thing coming. Any good
Yeah,
strategies?
yeah, no, that's great. We are seeing more and more of that, and that is a great approach from a product management and success standpoint. Bravo, absolutely. Yeah, it's communication. It's educating the sales force on this is the way the world is. This is how we're doing it, and keep sharing those success stories. Get the happy Bobs up there, and Julie and Sheila, Barbara, sharing the success. It's communicate. And it's really, you've got to get the head of sales on board singing from the hymnal. The head of global sales, when I was at Gardner, was a master at doing this. If he didn't look like a sales guy, he didn't talk like a sales guy. He was brilliant. He was like a puppeteer. He would get the 3 regional heads of sales on board, and he was almost writing the scripts for them, but they were communicating the message down. So strong sales leadership is a big part of that, and the communication. Hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. The other comment that I've gotten with sales programs, and I believe some of it has to do with timing. If you're trying to launch sales training in the middle of like towards the end of quota season,
Yeah.
but frequently trying to get the attention of salespeople when they're really busy, they've got customer visits and everything else. Any good strategies or thoughts on how to get their ear bent and get their attention when you have something to say, and not have them either they start the e-learning and they already have the answers to the quiz at the end from their buddy, and look, just hit play, go eat dinner, and come back, and it's done, and you can make other sales calls on your cell phone while the e-learning is muted.
Yeah. So how to engage sales? We'll talk more about that in this final section, and I hope we can go over a little bit. Again, I want to be respectful. Yeah, I would try in that case to work through the smaller, get an appearance at the district level. So again, what we heard from the survey and my observations is those Monday morning meetings with a sales team, the smaller teams assemble, whether 12, 15 people, a lot happens there. So if you can get into that agenda, working with the sales leader, that's a forum where you've got their attention. In terms of let me save this part 2 about how to engage with salespeople to win them over in the next part here. But make sure we answer that. Shall we move to that?
Yeah, we can save the rest of the questions for the end.
Great. All right. So how do you, or unless you have another question, I was just talking about part 2 of that one question.
Well, we've got a few comments in here. Somebody was a bit worried about, do you ever see any pushback as a product manager? You're telling them how to sell and they're already experts in how to sell. Like, do you ever get any pushback? Like, don't tell me how to sell. I already know.
Thank you. Yeah, there's so many comments. I just saw that one. Right. So thank you. This is very helpful. So when I say teach how to sell, I mean teach how to sell your product within the context of how they already know how to sell. Yes, we don't want to teach salespeople how to sell. We want to plug our product information into their sales process. So thank you for that. Yeah.
Excellent. So I think we're ready for the next section.
Okay, great. So I belong to this men's group. It's how to be better fathers, husbands, that kind of thing. And so a friend of mine in the group was on a Friday night going to a two-day workshop on how to be a better father. And his son said, "Dad, where are you going?" And he said, "Well, I'm going to a 2-day workshop on how to be a better father." And his son said, "Oh, that's easy, Dad. Just spend time with us." So he's, walking out the door, and the son saying, "Hey, just get down and play train tracks with me." So that's really the key to winning salespeople over. spend time with them. But in our prior question, not always easy. So find opportunities, if possible, where you can mingle with them. Salespeople love to hang out like in a setting like this. Maybe it's a Friday after work. Go to those sessions. Maybe it's a Friday afternoon thing at the office. Try to just schmooze and hang out. We can't do face-to-face ride-alongs now, but going on sales calls with them, even virtually, talking to them before or after. In fact, that's a great way to get somebody's attention. I'm happy to go on sales calls with you or strategize about the best accounts to go after. Go on sales calls. And here's a quick look at what your role should be on sales calls. Let me show you first what it should not be. And I've seen this a lot. So you're green, you're the SME, the subject matter expert. And what sometimes happens is, and this isn't your fault, it's a lot of times the salesperson's fault, but you've got a lot in common with the buyer. You're both engineers, you both understand the problem. And so what happens is the salesperson says, hey, this is Julie, she's our product manager on the new software. And take it away, Julie. And so now you, Julie, and the buyer, you're dominating the conversation. It's all green. And in the case of advisory services like Gartner, maybe the analyst, the technical expert, solves the person's problem and doesn't need the service anymore. So instead, what we want to do is, you'll see the blue, that's the salesperson. Again, we could do a whole hour on this, but you want to let the salesperson manage and control the call. They're managing the sale, but you're there as the expert, like the Jack in the Box. Come out of the box when the salesperson says, oh, Julie, why don't you share, let's ask, Steve the questions you want to ask. They're diagnosing the problem together. And then you see blue, the salesperson comes in and summarizes. So again, we could do a whole session on that, but the key point here is let the salesperson manage the call. You're there as the expert, and the salesperson hopefully has got good people skills and knows what they want, where to insert you, what to say, what to ask, that kind of thing. Get salespeople involved throughout the process. We talked about that earlier. Learn the sales process. One way to engage salespeople is to go to the VP of sales and say, hey, I want to learn the your sales process. Can I take the training? Some very successful companies have the product managers and salespeople go through the exact same new hire training. Something you might suggest. Learn the principles of training. I've got a book to recommend on that. All right, here's something else. Create sales evangelists. So imagine all 86 or so people on here, these dots are the sales force you're trying to influence and try to get to sell your product. What I have found successful is to pick the 5 to 7 salespeople who will do this well. Maybe they're top producers. They love to try new things. Maybe you've got a strong relationship with them already. Maybe they've come from outside the company and they've got some new skills, some new ideas, a good Rolodex. So pick those and have focused your training, your relationship building on them. And here's how we did it at Gartner. As an example. So we had a new CIO service. So we, early on, we had a lot of services that were more for the doers in the D-O-E-R-S in the organization, not for the CIO. So 2 senior IT people tried to launch a CIO service. They bombed. Strike 1, strike 2. And the third person had a home run. Here's what happened. We brought in a product manager who had been a regional sales manager. He identified 5 salespeople, I happen to be one of them, who he knew well. He knew would get him sales calls. And then he worked with us. He said, hey, Raj, let's walk through the new service. This is one-on-one at the desk. Let's take a look at your clients. Who do you got? Let's pick 3 days and go travel in Minneapolis and St. Louis, and let's do 4 sales calls a day. I said, great. And that way, I didn't have to do any work. I just had to be the guy in the blue color introducing Vince, control the call a little bit, but he was the product expert. So he was helping me make quota. And he had a bonus. So if we sold 3 of those new services in the first quarter, we got $5,000. And I was very motivated on money and recognition. So again, that evangelist model. So that might help answer that part 2 of that earlier question. Well, how do I get salespeople to pay attention? If you've got some evangelists, you've spent time with them, you've helped them make their number, they're going to spread the word to other people. They might even open the door for you. So let's say you've got to talk to somebody who's not one of those evangelists. You could call one of these folks and say, hey, could you help me? I'm trying to help Julie do the same thing you and I worked on together. Any chance you could put in a good word for me? Something like that. All righty. Let's go to, let me walk through resources, then we'll do final questions. So I've just did this study and I'm making that available to you free. I want to clean it up a little bit, so give me a couple of weeks and I'll show you how to do that in a second. We actually are a great resource if you want to bring in somebody for a train the trainer program, coaching product managers as they develop training, or having better relationships with the sales team. And we actually produce the training program. We can design, facilitate, and even MC it. So if you want the report, send me an email. If you want to have an in-depth discussion on any of these aspects today or something related, happy to do that. No pressure, no charge. Just send me an email, first 5 people. And let me walk through some other, let's go to polling question 4 if we could. So Tom was awesome. He came up with the title for this program tonight, which I really appreciate. And I am pulling all of this together in a book. It should be out in Q1 of next year.
And you'll have to remind us so we can add it to our book reading list of resources on the website as well.
Right, we love that. So which title do you prefer? There are actually 4 up there. And if you've come up with a brand new idea, boy, there are going to be all kinds of prizes for you. Type it in the chat window and we appreciate it. Thank you. Yes, most people understood Rolodex. It's a sad world. Do the young people know what a Rolodex is? I don't know. So, all right, well, that's happening. And then Tom also asked me to mention some books. Here are some. This first one he and I talk about a lot of the same things. And I actually interviewed him for the survey. Really nice guy, very simple, easy to absorb, a lot of good content in there. I think the HBR, Harvard Business Review collection of sales articles is really good from a higher level strategic perspective. If you want to understand what it's really like on the street, B2B, B2C, Jeff Gitomer is kind of a guru in this space. It's all about cold calling, how to ask questions. It's really gritty. And then finally, a book on training, how to train. Telling ain't training. This is one of the books that we used at GE when I did some work there. And of course, in my book, I will have a lot of content on that as well. So I'm going to grab a screenshot of that. Thank you.
And somebody was asking if you could share your email address again.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Let's go back. And again, I'm not selling anything. I'm just offering to you all. I appreciate it. And let's connect on LinkedIn. Let's go back here. All right. Oh, okay. Let's chat. Boop. There we go. Let's see. Oh, my contact. There we go. Excuse me. There we are. Thanks. All right. Oh, gosh. Did it just disappear? It did. Sorry about that. All right, there we go. Well, yeah, here's, I'm looking at this from Sandeep. Thank you. While I agree with most of Roger's points, it does conflict with what PMs are taught. Aren't we taught to build the best product by being close to the customer? Yes. While the PMs need to be close to sales. Yeah, so all I'm saying there is, in addition to being close to the customer, be close to sales as well. And I don't mean teach them selling skills, but by being close to sales, they do represent, to a degree, the voice of the customer. So it's another data point, another voice. And when they know they've been involved in the product discussion development phase, they're going to be much more apt to sync with you and be more receptive when you do finally launch. Yeah, so. Yep, let's eat our own dog food, title too long, great. How to get your sales team to sell your product. Yeah, great, thank you.
That's to the point.
Good point, yep. And I hope I'm not guilty of having packed in too much information here.
It's been excellent. If anybody has additional questions, shoot them out now. We've got a few minutes here as we
I'd like
wrap
to
up.
comment.
Yeah,
Roger, for most of this stuff was review from me, but you have put it together in a beautiful package. I probably could have done it myself, but boy, it's clean and top to bottom. You got lots of great nuggets and stories in there and everything. And rather than try and teach a bunch of people to do it, I'd want to call you in.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah,
You've got it beautifully packaged.
thank you. Yeah, honestly, I feel like my career peaked at this moment. I've been doing this for a lot of trainers. The American, it used to be the American Society of Training Development Professionals, but you all are really more of the target audience, because this is stuff hopefully you can use. And again, it's repeating, maybe a different point of view. As you said, thanks Jim, that it was kind of.
I've seen enough tech dumps, and the most effective training, sales training, I think I ever was part of. We had a game show format.
Yep.
We had people doing mock selling to each other, and then we had everybody in the audience would what when they were selling features, and how so when they actually got to the value. And that got to be a competitive thing. They were totally involved. They were laughing all the way, and they remembered everything they needed to remember out of it.
Yes,
Great energy.
that's it right there. That's it.
Wonderful.
You nailed it. That is spot on. Yes. Yep. Yeah, and if there's, I would love to know, either, if you want, either your most pressing issue or your key takeaway, just which is, it's helping me, on target. What are we missing? How will I apply this? Yeah, title's too long. Great example of that. How handle when sales folks ask for different features that you can't build for now? Yeah, so here's another tidbit about salespeople I did not mention. Salespeople are notorious whiners. They always want something more. And as one of my bosses said, Roger, if you got yellow pencils, sell yellow pencils. So there is a time that you got to push back a little bit, because salespeople, I can't sell it. If only it had this. Big excuse makers. Yeah. So again, as another sales leader said, we want to leave them no bush to hide behind. So that's a bush to hide behind. Yeah. And I hope I didn't reference Gartner too much, but they did a lot of things right. And so,
I see a comment here from Sandeep. He was saying that the salespeople always want to kind of compare the feature set against what the competitors are selling from a feature set. I've certainly seen that, and the danger from a PM standpoint is if that's your main way that you're prioritizing your roadmap and your feature build is what you're hearing complaints about features that you're missing that the competition has. It's a very rapid way of pulling into the wake of your competition because you're adding things they already have instead of continuing to differentiate your product. So that's a dangerous thing to kind of keep in mind.
Yes. Yeah. And that's what sales training, not product sales training, but sales training is all about. How to ask the right questions, how to position your product to be better than the competition, be the solution of choice.
Yeah, understand the differentiation.
Yes.
All right, well, with that, I think we're starting to get towards the bottom. I'm not seeing any additional questions. We'll give people a little bit of time to throw in a question or two if we got some last minute ones here. While we're waiting for those to come in, I want to let people know if this video will get posted to the SBPMA website. We typically post event summaries, slide decks, and videos. Those typically take at least a couple of weeks to put together because we have to check the video and sometimes we have to splice things and do a little bit of fix up. So we will have, if you know of a colleague that missed tonight's presentation and you say, you know who really needs to see this wasn't here, we will have links to that posted on the website a little bit later. So give us a week or two and we should have something up there. If there are topics that you'd love to hear about and have not seen a presentation on, please let us know. We're always looking for great speakers. If there are late questions that are coming in, feel free to reach out. We've got a large community here. We're all here to help one another and support one another. If you want to be informed of upcoming events, please make sure you're on our mailing list. You can also subscribe to the YouTube channel, and if you hit the little notify button, it'll even notify you when the recordings go live. So if you're wondering, hey, is the recording posted yet? You can always go into YouTube, subscribe to the SBPMA channel and hit notify, and that will pop up on your screen as is. So with that, I see a lot of thank yous from the audience. Thanks. I wanted to thank you, Roger, personally. It's been fascinating to hear your insight from everything that you've gone through and been in and out of multiple trenches. So that's it's always great to hear from somebody who has the experience and really can back up. It's not just a theory, but no, wait, I've lived the pain here, and let me help you avoid some of these painful things. So with that, like I said, thanks to everyone for showing up. Please spread the word to other folks that would find this interesting. And we hope to see you next month at the next meeting. So please, if this was useful to you, tell your friends. If there are additional things that we could do better, we're always looking for feature improvements and that sort. So I think Brendan just posted the YouTube channel to the chat window there as well. So with that, I think we're wrapped up for the evening, and thank you all. This has been most enjoyable and informative. Virtual round of applause.
Thank you all. It's great. I really appreciate the opportunity. Thanks, Gal. Good luck.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Good night.